We were very surprised to learn that traces of pesticides are regularly found in chocolate. Some of it is put on by the cocoa growers, some of it used when the cocoa is in storage. One of these pesticides, called lindane, is so harmful that it has been banned in Europe. We looked lindane up on the internet.
Lindane is possibly carcinogenic and causes cancer and can be very harmful for human health, and it affects animals as well.
And then plants, the environment.
Right,
not good
just
for
the entire food chain, everything.
Yeah, and especially breast cancer it causes, and also lung cancer. I mean, that is shocking. You know, eating a bar of chocolate is like having a cigarette.
I gather you're interested in lindane and cocoa.
We went to see Mike Webber, who speaks for the chocolate companies, and asked him why lindane was used in making chocolate.
And basically, this is the chap that it was used against, a creature called the mirid, to abbreviate its name. Not the sort of thing you'd want to find on your pillow when you went to bed at night, I think. And certainly not the sort of thing which cocoa farmers in West Africa wanted to find on their trees. I've got a picture here showing the sort of damage that mirids can inflict on cocoa. And in fact, if the attack stays unchecked, the farmer would lose his entire tree.
The chemical name for it is hexachlorocyclohexane, and sometimes referred to as benzene hexachloride. It's a nerve poison.
Just by way of interest, because we're sort of talking about cocoa, I thought you might like to see a cocoa pod. And these are the beans that the farmer gets out of the pod, and it's this that is actually made into chocolate and cocoa-based drinks and so on. As consumers of chocolate, this is the sort of the end of the business we never get to see. I thought you might be interested to see that.
It smells like cocoa.
Now there's a surprise.
I don't think you've heard this. This is a program I found on the radio, which is quite interesting about lindane. Have a listen.
And now farming today, here's Miriam O'Reilly. Hello. Traces of a highly dangerous pesticide have been found in samples of Cadbury's chocolate. Scientists from the government's Pesticide Residues Committee discovered lindane in a batch of dream bars, but say the amount found wouldn't have any effect on human health.
The Cadbury's chocolate, you know, and I've read other reports that any amount of lindane in your system can affect you and can build up as a residue.
There have been a number of concerns about use of lindane. I should emphasise at the outset that they're not concerns about food safety, and the World Health Organization as recently as 1997 re-investigated effects of lindane and concluded that it doesn't damage your immune system, it doesn't give you cancer and so on.
Other reports that I've read have stated that there is no safety level, there is no actual level they found which can be classified as safe of lindane at all. You know, the only real safety you can have is absolutely to find no lindane whatsoever.
I think for any given pesticide, you always find this sort of controversy, and it is always extremely difficult to prove a negative. You know, you can find thousands of occasions where something does no harm. You can't say on the 10,000th and one occasion that it might not.
There's a headline here which happened this year in March. Girl dies after eating minute amount of lindane, which makes up ant powder. And an 8-year-old girl in Sussex in England had a tiny amount of this ant powder and was killed by it. That's very tragic, and to think that ant powder, you know, the same substance in ant powder is in your Cadbury's chocolate bar that you're eating every day.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that these chocolate companies can't actually give any assurance that there isn't lindane in their products.
Certainly in the past that would be the case, yes. By phasing out lindane altogether in the country, then ultimately we shall be able to give that assurance. But at the moment nobody can.
Is that being done in these countries?
Yeah, and we have in fact replies from the countries concerned actually telling us when they have instituted bans.
The ban on lindane in Europe is definitely good news for those of us who eat chocolate. But Barbara Dinham at the Pesticides Action Network says the ban presents a problem for the farmers.
So this is a major problem for West African producers who are still using lindane in their cocoa production. They have to find alternatives or their products won't be allowed into the European market.
What are you going to do to help these farmers individually take new methods of farming? What's your stance on that?
Yeah, we're working with several programs, including the Sustainable Tree Crops Initiative, actually to run farmer field schools to introduce them to the different methods. And this is in fact a report of a conference that was held in West Africa in 2001, where the people on the front of here are all agricultural experts from the cocoa producing countries, and those people are now responsible for cascading that down to the level of the individual farmers. Because you're absolutely right, you can't simply go along to a farmer and say stop doing that and not give him some help in terms of what he can do.
But Mike Webber was uncertain how much financial support could be given to farmers to change to safer methods of growing cocoa.
But at the end of the day, we are buying a crop. These are not people that we actually employ ourselves.
There has to be a responsibility from the companies that are making these profits back to the farmer. It's impossible to expect a small-scale farmer in a developing country to make those kinds of changes without support, and the industry has an obligation to start providing that support.
And I'm sure the people who are using lindane in the crops in the developing countries, they probably don't have any idea about the health effects it causes, because if you imagine you're a farmer and you're not only you're making cocoa, but just the crop next door you're making like all the kind of yams and other food which you're living on, and that's probably all infected with lindane.
What effects has it had on the farmers? We mentioned earlier that it has had some medical difficulties. What are they? What have they been?
Well, I don't know that we've got any direct evidence that they have, but what has concerned us is that it seems likely to us that people that are actually spraying things like lindane would get more of the pesticide on them than that WHO safe limit. So, as a matter of sheer precaution, you actually don't want that to happen.
The workers or small-scale farmers who are using those products will be exposed to an acute poison which affects the nervous system, which will give them headaches and nausea, make them feel quite ill. But no one is really aware of the long-term health effects. There's just not enough research done on those kinds of pesticides.
I think that's a fairly...
One company, Green and Blacks, has made a close relationship with the cocoa farmers a feature of the chocolate that they sell. They don't use pesticides, but they're quite hard-nosed about the reasons.
And why are Green and Black so committed to using organic cocoa beans, which have been produced without any chemical pesticides?
First and foremost because of taste. We're a premium chocolate, and we want to use the best ingredients. And we believe that the best ingredients are those that don't have any taint, and therefore organic gives us the best quality cocoa. I think it has other benefits which we're certainly aware of and trying to promote, which is that it's better for the farmers who are working on the cocoa, and so it has a sort of double edge there, that they're not exposed to what could be harmful chemicals, and secondly they take care of their crops better because they actually have to think about them quite hard.
We would say that the cocoa industry has quite a responsibility for making sure that these methods are available to farmers, that they're looking down the supply chain and helping farmers to convert. That might involve increasing consumer awareness so that there's a penny on the price of cocoa to pay for the additional training that's needed. So it requires quite a wide-ranging strategy to look at how to get off the pesticide treadmill, and particularly to stop using hazardous chemicals like lindane.
With chocolate, you're not looking to tell people that it's healthier, or they're really giving to charity through the chocolate, because in the end, chocolate's quite a selfish product. It's about me, it's about eating it, it's about feeling good about it. But you certainly want it to not have negatives.
Yes, I do. Yes, I buy organic chocolate. Yeah.
And has the knowledge of lindane affected that decision?
For me, it's a decision partly based on the residues of chemicals in the chocolate, and also partly on an understanding of the whole supply chain and the important work that that companies that are developing alternatives and looking to support organic farming are doing.
So it is completely possible just to not use any pesticide and still have a healthy crop of cocoa.
It'll cost a lot more.
But it is.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It'll cost a lot more.